Hey, how are you doing today? Well, it's a beautiful day here today. And so I wanted to do a little bit of a standing practice with you and have a little talk as we're doing it. So let's get into our Wuji. We've gone through Wuji quite a bit, but today we're going to, we'll do a fair amount of time. Remember we talk about floating the bones, nice light bones. Imagine if you were a bird. A bird has hollow, light bones. So you imagine your bones are being nice and light, and then everything else that's not bone is getting very heavy and sinking down. We're going to do a little bit of a variation of the Wuji posture today, and we're going to have our hands up like this. We usually have our hands here, so we're going to have our hands up, and we are opening the palm as we do that. Okay, as opposed to having our hands flat down. I'm not flicking my fingers back. I'm actually just opening the palm area. Okay? All right. Okay, good. So, top of the head is being pulled up. Feel the vertebrae becoming nice and elongated. Good. Remember, our weight is distributed evenly across the feet. If you want to have your weight distributed from the toe to the heel, flat across, you can. Or if you want to bring a little bit more over into the front of the foot, you can do that too. Maybe like 70-30. And that way you'll affect what's called the bubbling wells. We had talk about Lao Gong, but we also have an area called bubbling wells down there. And by putting more weight on the front of the foot, it opens that area and allows us to communicate with the ground, with the earth. All right, so let's just allow ourselves to breathe. Remember, we're breathing from the lower region. We're not breathing from the chest. When we breathe from the chest, this is really, we're fight or flight. So we're breathing, just drop that breath down into we'd have the lower dantian, we could call that, or just the belly. Imagine if you had a little balloon there. When you inhale, you expand that balloon. And when you exhale, you let it go. So you should physically feel the belly is expanding when you're doing that. Another thing I'd like you to do is a little bit of a smile. We're trying not to be torturous here. I want you to allow yourself just to drop that idea that this is hard work, this is suffering, standing, and just embrace it. I'm not saying some crazy cheesy grin, but just bring the edges of your mouth up. Okay, so let's start the practice. As we continue now, we have the bones in place. It's almost like a framework. And the flesh, which is everything that's not bone, so your skin, your fascia, your internal organs, the blood, this is all heavy, and that is sinking down and away from the bones. Okay, so you have the bones are holding in place, light, and everything else is heavy and sinking away. So as we do this, you should notice immediately that your feet, you're starting to feel the weight is building up, probably at the soles of your feet. You're feeling that heaviness is increasing. That is a good sign. That means you're doing it right. If you feel the heaviness is gathering in your midsection, in the pelvis, or maybe it's gathering in your knees, you're not quite there yet. If it's gathering at your pelvis, that means that you're kind of cut off. And we have to allow that to drop through the pelvis, through the knees, into the feet. The way that we accomplish this is by relaxing the pelvis in such a way that, remember, we had a discussion about when we want to release into the qua. The qua is the groin crease there, and we do that. We use the seated muscles and not squatting muscles. So if you want to imagine, I've heard different analogies of this, but if you are sitting on the edge of a bar stool, you could imagine that. Or you could imagine that you're sitting on a windowsill, on a low windowsill. Imagine that. So you're kind of propping your butt up onto a bar stool or onto a windowsill. All right, so the spine is nice and erect from there, and that it's being pulled up. You should feel that there's space in between the vertebrae. We want to create space. This is really one of the most important aspects of Wuji practice, is that we're creating space within the body. That space within the larger regions, but also in between the joints, between the bones. So we're always opening and opening. Okay, so if our mind is on the hips, we want that to flow down and through the hips. If you notice that your tailbone begins to just roll under, this is a good sign. That means that you are releasing into the qua. So the tailbone is rolling under. And now check with your knees. Are your knees catching? Does it feel like everything's gathering at the knees? Well, this is another thing that we need to release. We don't want all this, because you're going to damage your knees that way. And what use is that? We want it into the ground, right? So one way that we can adjust this is take that little thread at the top of the head and just pull so feel the bones lift up a little bit, and see if that just kind of unlocks that to where the pressure that you might have had in the knees, if it flows through into the ground. Maybe you need to come down a little bit. So sink a little bit further down. So just tweak. We just want to tweak with our posture until we feel that those areas, that you feel a clean line moving, the plumbing is going all the way through the hips, through the knees, and into the ground. Good. All right, we'll do a number of these. So there's just a couple of things I want to address today. One is this idea of just releasing that weight. So let's do a very basic release process. I want you to visualize and imagine your skull. So put your mind in your skull right now. See your skull. And imagine that skull being very light. It's lifting up. It's being lifted up, or it's lifting up, however you want to perceive it. But now, as you're inhaling, you're visualizing it becoming light. You're just allowing it to become light. And as you exhale, I want you to think of all of your skin, the muscles, tendons that are attached and around your head is sinking and relaxing away from the skull. So feel your cheek muscles getting heavy, sinking down. It's almost like they're being filled with liquid. They're becoming heavy, and then they're sinking down, like candle wax. It's like pouring down. So it's sinking away from the bones. Okay, as you're doing this now, you might feel that the cervical spine is becoming, is opening up. So keep doing that. And now I want you to imagine that your rib cage, so your shoulders, you can bring the arms in this too. So shoulders, rib cage, your arm bones, your finger bones. So we're going to work on this large area here. Again, the bones are nice and light. And then all of the flesh, everything that's not bone, we're going to let it to sink. We're going to exhale. I'm breathing in through my nose and breathing out through my nose. So you're breathing in through breathing down, and then we release. So let that everything just sinking down against the bones of the rib cage, the shoulders. Even your finger bones. Imagine your finger bones are light, and the hand, all the flesh around the hand is heavy and drawing down. Now as you feel that sinking sensation, I want you to imagine, now put your attention on the skull again, and really you should feel that beautiful stretch happening in the cervical spine area, in between the vertebrae. And last of all, let's work with the legs. So the pelvis, all the way down your legs, your leg bones, down into your foot bones. So feeling very, very light. And now we're going to allow all of that mass to sink down. Everything that's not bone, the flesh is sinking down. Good. And again, check. We don't want to catch it in the pelvis. We don't want to catch it in the knees. Release it down into the feet. Good. Now, I want you to feel the difference between the rib cage is pulling up against your pelvis and your legs. So feel the lumbar region of your spine is opening. Feel the release that's happening, that the vertebrae in between the lumbar sections is opening up. Okay, so now I want you to float the head away from the chest and float the chest away from the pelvis. So we're opening up the lumbar region, we're opening up the cervical spine, and all the vertebrae in between. Keep going. Keep sinking, keep relaxing. You're doing great. Smile, if you can. All right. All right, we're going to bring this to an end. Just gently bring the weight either side. Release the hands, the fingers. Shake. Okay. Good. All right, so that's our Wuji practice for today. I'll have other of these, as I said, available, different lengths, and hopefully you can do this in your own time. Sit with me and go through this. And hopefully this will deepen your practice. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.